YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today we're taking a look at a knife from Civivi. This is one of their new models for 2019. This is the Statera. And I really like this design. So I was able to pick one up from Justin over at White Mountain Knives. And if you like this, you should go over there, use my discount code SHARPSTUFF, and you'll get 10% off, which is a pretty good deal on these guys and really makes them more attractive in terms of price point. Now, I've got to say, Civivi has been pretty impressive. If you don't know, Civivi is the budget line from We, and they're built by We. So We Knives didn't go out and subcontract someone else to build these. They're building them themselves, and they're doing a really good job. If you're, familiar with their higher end stuff, you know what they're capable of, and these are really nice. Every one that I've handled. This I think would be the, 7th model, let's say. I'm kind of guesstimating there, but four models came out last year in 2018. I reviewed 2 of them. Very good action, very good knives all around. I was very impressed with both. Probably the Aquila I liked a little more. And so now I saw this design and thought it was really nice looking and wanted to check it out and share it with you guys. And I've been pretty impressed with it as well. So let's start off with size and weight here. This guy is 8 inches overall. It's actually just a hair over, but so close it's not really worth bothering. 3.5 inches on the blade, 4 5/8 on the handle, 3 3/4 of grip area. So for a small knife, even someone with quite big hands is probably going to be okay. And it weighs in at only 3.74 ounces. So in terms of size, weight, and carry, very comfortable. You really don't even notice this in your pocket, but you do have a fairly capable cutting tool, which I definitely appreciate. Moving over to the blade here, there's a couple things I want to say. One, I like the design of the blade. It looks really tough and durable and cool. The only downside here is they've got it's sort of a combination. It's somewhere between a stonewash finish and a bead blasted finish. All right, and the only problem with that is, really there's no problem with it other than the application here. It's on a D2 steel blade. So D2 is not the most corrosion resistant steel. So to me, it feels like you should give it the most corrosion resistant finish, and they haven't gone that route here. So I wish they would have taken a different choice. If you're going to use this finish, I would have rather seen them go with the 9CR18 MOV, which is a great steel, or with the VG10, okay? But anyway, the D2 is fine in terms of performance, edge retention, all of that. It's just not as stainless, so I would have liked to see it in a satin finish. Okay, it's nice thin blade stock, which is going to be, I don't know, I don't feel like it fits the design of the knife. To me, and you guys correct me in the comments down below, this looks like it should be a thick, heavy-duty blade to me. Does it look like that to you? I mean, maybe I'm just imagining it here, or maybe it's just totally my poor perception of this, but when you turn the knife this way, it just feels a little thin. Now, in use, it's fantastic. I've done a bunch of cutting with this, and it's held its edge really well and sliced amazingly. So from a performance standpoint, this blade is great. From the look standpoint, again, I also really find it attractive. I mentioned I love the way the finish goes with the overall design. I just don't love the way the finish goes with D2 steel. Okay, so overall, very happy with this blade in terms of its use. I think if you're in an area that is, if you're by the ocean, or if you're doing a lot of outdoor stuff or hiking, camping, that kind of thing, there could be some issues with corrosion on the D2 blade. Hopefully not. I would have liked to see this in the 9CR18 MOV. All right, especially considering how well that steel performed in the other Civivi knives that have been tested, and it held up really well. Moving on to lockup and deployment, that's one area that Civivi really shines, and that's, I think, one of the reasons that people are drawn to them. So you buy this knife for, I think, around $70, unless you use my discount code, and then it'll be a little cheaper. But you get a fantastic action, like something you would expect to see on a $200 or $300 knife, not on a $70 knife. And that's one of the real joys of these Civivi knives. And there are others doing it as well. Okay, Best Tech, I find, does a great job on their budget knives. I don't want to be unfair, but Civivi has done a really good job, consistently good in terms of their action. And this one is no different. The detent is dialed in perfectly. It's smooth as silk. The lock bar is easy to access. The tension is not set too high. So lockup and deployment on this is really, really nice. Now I will remind you, actually I don't even think I've mentioned yet, this is on stainless steel ball bearings. So what we've been seeing previously is the higher cost Civivis are on ceramic, and I would have liked to see this on ceramic, except I think what they did was they decided to give us a different value option. They decided to go a little more premium on the handle and go with the carbon fiber and titanium hardware as well as the titanium clip, all of which is fine, and I understand why some people would want that, no question. I don't know, maybe I would have been at least as happy, if not happier, just to go with steel hardware and give me the nicer bearings. By the way, the action is great, so it's not a huge deal. The other option would have been to go with VG10 steel, which would likely be a little more expensive. So it seems like some odd design choices here with the titanium hardware on a $70 knife. I would have liked to see that money spent on blade steel. Anyway, moving on. I'm not quite into the handle discussion yet, but I guess we're sort of going there anyway. And so, yeah, what is this made out of? Well, we've got carbon fiber over G10 over stainless steel liners that are heavily milled out, and you can see quite clearly that they are gold, G10 backspacer, titanium clip, and titanium hardware. So I guess that's and that's one thing there is, yeah, if you want something with some cool titanium on it and you haven't had that before, this is a great way to get some nicely upgraded hardware for a pretty reasonable price. By the way, you can see the clip is movable from left to right, or right to left. Carry, of course, only tip up, no tip down carry, as it should be. In terms of ergonomics, this is really, really good. So it fits the hand really well, especially in a saber grip. The only thing I would have liked to see is this top swedge to not be quite so aggressive, because when I choke up, it means I'm putting my thumb out here on the thin portion of the blade that they've ground it thinner. And if I'm really pushing hard, okay, I'm cutting a really hard block of cheese or whittling on some hardwood or something, it would have been nice to just have a larger flat surface to land my thumb on right there. But again, other than that, the ergonomics are quite nice. So let's go ahead, now that we've covered the construction, we've covered the blade, we've talked about pretty much everything we want to talk about, let's bring in some comparisons. The first one may as well be another Civivi. So here we have the Civivi Anthropos. Anthropos is just Greek for man. By the way, for those of you who watched my first impressions video, it was almost impossible to flip this open. I was able to fix that detent, so now it's good to go, and I'll talk about that in the full review. But you can see how the size comparison breaks down. You've got a much smaller knife in the Anthropos, although very similar blade length. I will say in use, I find this handle much more conducive to me actually going out and using that knife. Let's grab a couple of other budget knives here. I tried to bring a few. So here we have the Real Steel Control, another D2 frame lock flipper. Well, I guess frame lock versus liner lock, but similar price point. I think you're paying about 55 bucks for this and closer to 70 for this. Again, now this is bigger and heavier for sure. You're definitely making a bigger investment into the weight you got to deal with. What else have we got? The Bird Caracara is a great knife. I love the Bird Caracara. I find it extremely ergonomic. It's the only area it's lacking in is overall blade length. So I wish they could just, if they redesigned this just a little and moved this finger choil, made it a little bit smaller, gave me a little bit more blade, I'd be a lot happier with it. But even as it is, I like the the Bird Raven 2 a lot. Anyway, I don't know what's going on with my brain. I clearly haven't had enough coffee. This is the Bird Raven 2, and it makes a pretty good comparison. Probably a little more robust, especially in the blade stock compared to the Civivi there. Rat Model 1, of course, if we're going to talk about budget knives, we definitely want to talk about the Rat Model 1. This, again, is the D2 version, which costs a little more than the AUS 8 version. Another similarly priced knife in D2 steel with a liner lock and a flipper is the Steel Will Lanners. Now, the Lanner is quite a significant win. By the way, I think they still have these in stock over at White Mountain Knives, and that's where I would go to pick one up as well. Really nice action, really thick, robust blade stock, very comfortable in hand. So again, compares very well. Now, obviously, or I guess the one area that is going to be most different about these is this is going to slice just a little better with that thinner stock, and it's going to be a little easier on the pocket. Let's see, what else have I got to show you here? Oh yeah, this one might be opening a can of worms that I don't really need to open, but I'm going to bring it in anyway. This, of course, is the Gonzo, I think it's the FH11, let's see, yeah, FH11. D2 steel, liner lock, carbon fiber. Now the carbon fiber on the Wii looks a little nicer, and the overall refinement is better, but boy, oh boy, the price, okay? So this guy can be had for like 23 bucks and competes fairly well over against the Statera. Finally, let's bring in a Buck 110, mostly because everyone is familiar with this. And of course, this Buck 110 is special, but if you just want a regular Buck 110, you can get it for around $45, or I don't know, I think they're probably 50 bucks in Canada, 40 bucks in the US. Let's go with that as a ballpark figure. So you might get some similar performance out of that, but mostly I'm bringing that in because everyone's familiar with it, and it'll give you a good idea of what you're looking at in terms of size. So there you go, guys. Now, what do I think overall of this knife? I really, really like the design. I love the way they've done this blade. I would have been happier with the 9CR18 MOV steel, but in D2, it's still quite good. And thankfully, in my area, corrosion is not going to be an issue. It never has been with D2 steel for me, and I don't anticipate it starting. It's very comfortable in hand. It carries very easily, and you do get some nice upgrades. So we've got some titanium hardware going on here. We've got really nice action, and all of that comes in around 70 bucks, which I don't think is unreasonable at all. There you go. That's my overall take on the Civivi Statera. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.